the kitchen, folks. In today's film, I'm going to make a simple Mediterranean loaf in my bread maker. Let's have a look at those key ingredients, and here they are. Well, it's bread, so I need flour, and I've got 500 grams of strong white bread flour just there. It's Mediterranean inspired, so I need Mediterranean stuff. So I've got Italian mixed herbs, I've got a lemon, got lots of lemons as you can see, I've been doing lots of lemony things today. I have got a red capsicum pepper, or bell pepper to you Americans. I've got an aubergine. Is that called an eggplant in some countries? I believe it is. Or a zucchini. Is it a zucchini? It's something like that. It's an aubergine to me. I've got 3 mushrooms and a dried chilli and some tomato puree. So I'm going to get my flavours for the Mediterranean-ness from these. Other key ingredients needed is a bit of sea salt, some black pepper, olive oil, got to be olive oil, it's Mediterranean, and some fast action bread yeast. Alongside that, I've got 200 ml of warm water, and I'll be adding a little bit of sugar. So a lot of key ingredients just there, but it's not all going into the bread maker. I'll be using little bits of these things. Let's crack on. Now, normally when I make a loaf of bread in the bread maker and I'm using 500 grams of flour, I would have 300 ml of water. But because I've got quite a bit of vegetable matter going in this, I'm going to use 200 ml of water, and I'm going to add my vegetable matter, crushed and pulped and chopped finely, into this water. When it hits 300 ml, then I'll stop, because otherwise there'll be too much liquid in there and the bread just won't rise. It'll be a blob in the bottom of the bread maker. So my first ingredient into the water is going to be a squirt of tomato puree. This adds colour, flavour, and it's a good yeast nutrient. So you can see a few worms of that down there. I'm now going to move on to my lemon. So I don't want the ends. What I'm going to do is chop it down the middle, so I've got 2 halves, and I'm simply going to squeeze these now into this to add that nice lemony flavour. So I've got the juice from an entire lemon gone into that, and that's got a lot of citric acid in, which again is great for the yeast. It loves it. Now I'm going to take my outside of my lemon and I'm just going to get some of the zest from it. I don't want pith because that's bitter, but it's nice to get a bit of zestiness just for that really sort of nice lemony smell as much as anything, because when the bread's baking it'll give off a gorgeous smell, and it's nice to get a bit of lemony sharpness in the flavour too. I want to make a bread that I can use in sweet and savoury sandwiches, toast, etc. And just to explain, that's why I'm not adding any garlic or onion into this recipe, because that would preclude me from being able to use the bread as either sweet or savoury. So I'm just going to get my little bits of zest there, there's not a lot to it, and put them in. These will get smashed and broken down by the bread maker when it kicks in, so I don't mind that they're quite largish. I'm going to do the rest of the lemon all together, and then I'll come back to you. So that's all my tomato puree and lemon that I'm going to put in there, and I'm currently on about 230 ml, and the rest of the lemon that's left will go to compost on the garden. So next up is my capsicum pepper, bell pepper, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to cut that down the middle, and I'm going to take half of it. I'm going to cut the core out and the seeds, I don't want them. So that can go. And what I want to do now is to chop this quite finely. And that's probably enough actually, I don't need that as well. I've probably got more than enough just here. I'm going to put it into my Pampered Chef chopping tool. I call it a whopper chopper. I have no idea what its actual name is. Actually, I'm not going to use all of that. That's probably enough, because otherwise I'm going to end up with too much liquid. And I'm going to put the top on, and then I'm going to employ some extreme violence. I think we can say that's chopped. Now nothing's getting wasted here. I'm actually going to make lunch with what's left from these vegetables, but that now can go into the water, and you can see how wet it is. So that's going to go in. Now I'm on 280 ml now. I don't really want to go above 300, so I'm just going to have to put a small amount of aubergine and mushroom in, probably less than what I've showed you. So for now I'm just going to put one mushroom in there, and I'm just going to cut that into two. In fact, no, I'm going to put two mushrooms in. Let's be brave. And I'm going to take my aubergine and I'm just going to cut the end off it like so. And that's going to be enough aubergine. I'm going to take that and I'm just going to chop it down into 6 pieces like so and stick it all in here. And once again, get the top on and away we go. Right, let's have a look what that looks like. And that is finely chopped aubergine and mushroom. I'm going to measure that in. I want to keep this to 300, so I might not get it all in. And that's bang on 300 ml. Ka-ching. Right, now it's time to start chucking stuff into the bread maker drum. So here's my 300 ml of assorted fruit, veg, water, etc. That's going in. I'm going to add some Italian mixed herbs, just a sprinkle. Generous sprinkle. And I'm going to add some black pepper. I like black pepper, so let's go to town a bit. I'm not adding the salt at this stage because it inhibits yeast growth. I will add that later, but I will add some sugar now. And I'm going to put 2 of these in there. So 1, and that's like 2 heaped teaspoonfuls, essentially. Finally, I've got my dried chilies. I'm just going to break them down, seeds and all, it can all go in. It's actually amazing how chili flavours bread. It doesn't burn when you eat it like it does when it's wet. You just get a really good chili flavour. I did it last week with some jalapenos and it was absolutely gorgeous. Next, I'm going to add my bread yeast, and I'm just using fast action bread yeast from the pantry. I don't know which supermarket it came from. Can't remember. And I should measure it into teaspoons, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna sprinkle it on top. I would normally add about 1.5 teaspoons, but I'm gonna go for a bit more than that because it's got to work harder to lift all that vegetable matter. Okay, I've probably put double the amount of yeast than what I would normally in a normal loaf of bread there, and then I'm just going to give this a little mix around. Now this yeast is going to get very excited by the amount of nutrition in this. So I'm now going to put this out of the way on the windowsill and I'm going to leave it for 20 minutes. The yeast will begin to build a krausen. I'll see a foamy layer appear on top. When I see that, then I'll add the rest of the ingredients, but I want to see that krausen first. So I'll come back to you in about 20 minutes time. Okay, it's actually about 30 minutes later. Let's have a look at it. And you can see we've definitely got some foamy krausen building on top just there. I'm happy now to pour the rest of the ingredients into this. It's not quite as dramatic a krausen as I'd expected, but the density of the liquid is quite high because of the amount of vegetable matter in there. So first in goes my flour, and I'm just going to rotate the pan as I pour it, or the drum, whatever you call it, just so I get a spread which is quite even and not all in one place. Okay, and then I'm just going to pat that down a little bit and make a bit of a well in the top just there. You can see I've got a round well, and I'm going to pour into that my olive oil. And that's enough olive oil. Not measured, I just do it visually. And then I'm going to get my salt in. Now I keep the salt away from the yeast in the first part of this because I don't want the yeast to be inhibited because it's got a lot of work to do. In some bread recipes, you do let the salt and the yeast touch each other a lot earlier on. Again, I'm not measuring the amount of salt, but I know that this is going to be the equivalent to about a teaspoonful, if that. Right, that's everything in. Let's go. So I get the lid open, and I'm now going to get the drum of the bread maker inside there and firmly in place. I'm going to close that. Now, for your information, my bread maker is a Panasonic SD2500. I've had this a very long time. And I'm doing a large loaf, and I'm doing it as a basic loaf. So it's a number 1, so that's already on. Now, I want a medium crust on it, but I want to give it extra time. So when I go, if I just go with this one now, it'll do it as a 4-hour one. I want it to do it for 6 hours. I want it to have a couple of hours more just to sort of sit and for the yeast to do its work. And that'll do. And that's all I've got to do. Finito. Well, finito for now, anyway. So I'm going to come back to you when this is ready. See you in 6 hours. Well, it's nearly 6 hours later. I've got 4 minutes left on the bread maker. So there's going to be one of 3 possible outcomes with this. Best case scenario is a lovely round dome on a nice risen bread. Second best case scenario is a flat top rather than a risen dome on a nice risen bread. And third case scenario, worst case scenario, is that it looks like a lump of clay in the bottom of the bread maker drum. Let's see what I get. And I really want to emphasise how much I wish this camera could record smells for you, because it smells absolutely gorgeous. I mean, we are talking lovely bakery type smells combined with that extra pizzazz from all those Mediterranean bits and bobs. I can smell lemoniness carrying on this. I think this is going to be a really, really lovely loaf, irrespective of what it might look like. The last minute, the tension mounts. Here we go. Fingers crossed. Oh! Okay. Autopsy time required. Now, it's not quite that bad. It's definitely risen. It's not a lump of clay in the bottom. But yeah, we can see that that hasn't got the lovely dome. And that is down to the number of ingredients that are in there. Right, let's have a look. Okay, so if we just look at it from that side, it's lovely. What a lovely looking loaf, yeah? It's like the Batman villain, Two-Face. We've got one face and we've got t'other. Right, but this actually has definitely had a go. This side has failed a little bit. I'm not quite sure why it's such a perfect line down the middle like that. But yeah, do you know what? It's not pretty, but it's not down to what it looks like. It's down to what it tastes like. So I'm going to leave it to cool for an hour or so, and then I'll get back to you. See you then. Hey folks, it's an hour later. I'm going to give it a little whirl, see what it's like. So again, let's look at the nice side. Oh yeah, doesn't it look really good? Great stuff. Don't look at that side. That side. So I'm going to take the crust off. Let's just have a look. And look at that, that actually looks really nice. It's got a very, very nice crumb on it, that. Still a little bit damp there, and that's down to the vegetable matter. And also I need to leave it maybe a bit longer, and actually taking the crust off is probably a good thing to do for it. But yeah, I mean, it does look kind of nice. But as ever, the proof is in the tasting. So first of all, I'll give it a little try as it is. Really lovely, crispy crust and heel on the outside. Really nice. Lemoniness is pushing through. But I'm also getting a bit of zip from the chilli. That's really, really good actually. Now, I'm not tasting the aubergine. I'm not tasting the mushroom. But the capsicum pepper is more evident. Oh yeah, that's good. Right, let's try it as God intended with a bit of butter on. Can't beat a buttered crust. That's tremendous. That really, the saltiness of the butter just goes, wow. It really brings it out. That's quite delightful. Oh, it's a real lemony hit then. Look, it's not the prettiest loaf I've ever made, but I'll tell you this, it's damn tasty. So for me, it's not a 10 out of 10. It's a 6.8. Not quite a 7. That puts it in the first class degree category. It's not quite there. But it's definitely a good achiever. Yeah, let's give it a 2-1. 6.8 out of 10. Taste-wise, super. Just need to work on the appearance. Right, catch you on the next film, folks. Cheers.